This program is made possible by 46% of non-retirees believe they can't afford to retire. American Senior Benefits agents help retirees find solutions aiding your journey to retirement and financial security. More at wichita.americanseniorbenefits.com. Moving can be stressful. Whether your move is local or long distance, 2 Men in a Truck can help. More at 2men.com.
Are you a wartime veteran ages 73 to 85? Did you know there are new rules that may affect your pension? Don't lose out on benefits you deserve. Our team serves you because you served us. Contact Long-Term Care for Veterans today.
King Senior Solutions, educating clients and offering solutions for Medicare beneficiaries. Personally selecting the plan that fits your needs. More at kingseniorsolutions.com. King Senior Solutions supports KPTS.
I'm Katherine Ambrose. Welcome to another episode of Empowering Seniors. Today we have the amazing opportunity to meet with Dr. Tim Watt, a neurosurgeon, and he has a lot to share with us about anti-aging, which I know we're all intrigued with and want to learn as much as we can. So I want to see what we can pack into this. Tell us a little bit about your specialty in anti-aging.
All right. You know, I actually got into neurosurgery because I like the paradigm of fixing people's problems. Here's what's wrong, here's what we can do to fix it. If you owned a house, what do you think would be the best way to keep the house from burning down? Do you put in smoke detectors, clean the dryer filters, put a fire extinguisher in the kitchen, or do you wait for the house to catch fire and call the fire department? Mainstream medicine is practiced like the fire department. We wait until you're fully ablaze with disease, and then we come and try to salvage what's left. And so as my career progressed, I became a little frustrated in terms of seeing people that had all of these problems, which frequently were self-inflicted, and then trying to undo damage done. So I spent about 15 years training in this new paradigm of anti-aging. And some people think that's a little bit of an over-the-top name. But when you think about what it is you don't like about being older, it's not the passing of years, it's being elderly, it's being decrepit and not well. And that's merely the accumulation of multiple chronic diseases. Years aren't the burden, disease is the burden. So if we can be proactive to prevent the chronic diseases, the passing of years no longer matters. You're still active and viable and healthy and contributing to society and enjoying life. So that's the anti-aging.
That's incredible. And we see people that are in their 90s and maybe well over 100 that are still active and doing incredible things. What is the difference? What role does genetics play versus the self-sabotage that might go on?
Everything is neither nature nor nurture, it's the combination. It's a field we call epigenetics, which is the interaction between the environment and your genes. Your genes loads the gun, but your environment and your lifestyle is what pulls the trigger. Every cell in your body has the same genes. Why is it skin cells are skin cells and brain cells are brain cells? It's epigenetically determined. And we know that you literally can turn genes on and off. I have the genetic predisposition for macular degeneration, which is the #1 cause of blindness in the older population. That doesn't mean I'm doomed to go blind. It means I know I'm predisposed to this. So I'm very proactive about what steps can I take to tell that gene, thanks but no thanks. I don't go out in the sunlight without sunglasses. I don't spend a lot of time looking at blue light screen without the silly orange glasses to block the blue light. I take my fish oil and my lutein and my zeaxanthine and all the antioxidants that are focused on the eye itself. So does it mean I'm definitely not going to get it? No. Does it mean I'm definitely going to get it? No. It just means that since I'm predisposed, I'm going to fight the good fight to try and not get it. And the same is true with a lot of conditions. People will hear about the ApoE4, which is the gene that's related to Alzheimer's, which terrifies everybody.
Yes.
Well, you can be homozygous for ApoE4 and still not get Alzheimer's. And you can be heterozygous or not even have it, and you get Alzheimer's. So your genes, most of the time, are not your destiny. There are a handful of conditions, cystic fibrosis, Tay-Sachs, they're such strong, what we call genetic penetrance, that if you drew that short straw, you drew the short straw. But for the majority of conditions, which are really weighing on people's minds and their bodies, it's not that straightforward. And you have the ability to make changes. And it's also important for people to realize it's not too late to make a change. Now again, going back to the fire department analogy, it's certainly better if the fire department arrives before the flames are throughout the house. So it's not brain surgery to realize that the more damage that's already done, the harder it's going to be to claw your way back to health. The best time to start an anti-aging program is when you're a small child. But just because you're older does not mean that the boat has already sailed. We can improve strength and function. You can get better. I'm in better health today at 61 than I was 30 years ago when I was on active duty in the Army, and I've got the tests to prove that.
That's amazing. Well, speaking of tests, since we're talking a little bit about genetics, and I don't want to go off too far because I've got some important questions that our viewers have actually asked. But DNA testing, I know that genetic testing is something that I'm starting to hear a little bit about, and that there's some genetic test scams out there, and that'll be something that we'll talk about in the future. Do you have anything to share with us about genetic testing?
It can be very valuable if you have the right mindset.
Okay.
All right, again, I've already brought up my own DNA analysis. There are a lot of physicians, if you go to your doctor and say, I'd like to do genetic testing, and they'll push back. Now, partly, there's a good chance they just don't know that much about it and they're keeping their cards close to their vest. I'm wearing a vest. But it's also been an attitude of, well, it's just going to make them depressed. If I say you've got the gene that predisposes you to macular degeneration, you're going to go home and hide in bed because now I'm doomed to become blind. What you have to do is approach this with the mindset of saying, I want this information not as an end result in itself. I want this information so that I can take some steps. You know, I mentioned a couple of things like zeaxanthine and astaxanthine and lutein. I could give you a list of 180 things that people should take, more than anybody's ever going to be willing to take. So you have to back up and say, well, what are your goals? And if your goal is I'm predisposed to lose my vision, then that needs to motivate me to hone in on the supplements that I know are going to help protect my vision. If I know that heart disease runs in my family, doesn't mean I'm going to get heart disease, but it does mean I need to take some steps so I don't follow in their footsteps. Now, I will say I'd be a little cautious about putting a lot of faith in the tests that you can order off of TV commercials. If you really want to do genetic testing to see about disease predispositions, or some things we can even do in terms of, is this medication right for you? Are you a fast metabolizer, a slow metabolizer? Is this entirely the wrong drug? That sort of testing is best ordered out of a physician's office where you've got somebody that knows what he's doing and is using a lab that's trying to provide reputable medical information, not make a buck selling a product to tens of thousands of people.
Let's go back to some of the diseases or symptoms that we can maybe turn around. What are some of your best tips on how to make aging not as unpleasant?
Well, lifestyle is paramount. Again, a lot of times people will come to me as an anti-aging doctor and they're very excited, I'm going to do something sexy like give them growth hormone and that's going to fix the problem. Well, you may need growth hormone, but you build the foundation with lifestyle.
Okay.
If you're going to come talk to me about hormone replacement and you've got a cigarette hanging out of your mouth, we've got a problem that goes beyond your low hormone levels. So starting with lifestyle, and the most paramount part of lifestyle is diet. I tell people all the time, you just can't outrun your fork. And diet is a major contributor to inflammation.
Okay.
And chronic inflammation is what causes the majority of the chronic diseases that when we stack them one on top of the other, we get that elderly, debilitated nursing home state that none of us want to even think about. So all the steps you can take to decrease inflammation slows the progression of these diseases. Sugar is a terrible culprit, and the more you can eliminate sugar from your diet, the better. And by sugar, I don't just mean C&H table sugar, I mean all simple processed carbohydrates. White potatoes, rice, virtually all grains. They're absorbed very rapidly in your body. It shoots your blood sugar up, and that causes you over time to get sick. And again, the kicker is over time. If the first time you ate trans fats, you had crushing chest pain and fell to the floor, it would be easy to convince people don't eat trans fats.
Right.
The problem is the slow accumulation of damage over the years, like the water eroding the Grand Canyon, is what produces the problem. And for most people, they're staring the onrushing train of ill health in the face before they even realize they're walking on the railroad tracks. So get off the sugar, and as I just mentioned, get off the trans fats. You remember, your audience is old enough to remember Crisco.
Yes.
Mom kept Crisco in the cabinet, not in the refrigerator. You know why?
Because it didn't go bad.
It doesn't spoil, that's right. It doesn't spoil because bacteria can't eat it. Bacteria eat everything. If they can't eat Crisco, why would you eat it? Okay? So the trans fats is a no-brainer. Vegetable oil, though, is another problem. The corn oil, the canola oil, the safflower oil, all of these are highly inflammatory. They're making us sick. When everybody talks about grandma back on the farm, okay, she wasn't using corn oil, she was using butter. She was using lard. And these people were way healthier than the population we look around today.
So people died at younger ages back then, maybe when my great-grandmother was on the farm and pouring whole cream into everything and lots of butter and lard. So what is the difference? Today, people are living longer.
Well, the first thing you've got to realize is, yes, life expectancy in 1900 was 47 years. And for women now, it's around 88 years. But it's not because we got rid of butter and convinced people to eat Cheerios, which are not heart healthy. The difference is public hygiene, getting rid of infection, okay? If you reached a certain age back in the day, you were as likely to reach 90 as someone is today. The problem is that you died of an accident, or you died of an infection, or you died of pneumonia before you even had a chance for the chronic diseases to make you miserable.
Okay.
Well, now that public health has made it so that we're not keeling over in influenza epidemics as teenagers, we're able to live long enough that our steady diet of bad habits starts to accumulate, and you wake up one day and you've got arthritis, and you've got atherosclerosis, and you've got aching joints, and you've got sore muscles and dementia and everything else.
So how can we turn the clock on dementia, and maybe is there something about fascia kind of tightening us and starting to cause us to
the little hunch you're making is osteoporosis in the works. That's the gradual collapse of the vertebral bodies in the spinal column. It's not your calcium problem, it's your low vitamin D level. Nobody in Kansas can get enough sunlight to get an adequate vitamin D level. Your body thinks we're in the tropics, buck naked. If you're not getting full body exposure to intense sunlight, you're not making the vitamin D you need. And even if you were trying to do that, your dermatologist would be chasing you around with SPF 50 and a big floppy hat. So it doesn't work.
Okay.
But you also have to have vitamin K. Vitamin K gives your body the signal to say, don't put the calcium in your heart valves or your kidneys, put it in your bones.
Okay.
You also have to lift weights for multiple reasons. Lifting weights is mandatory. There's what's called a piezoelectric effect. When you stress the bone gets stronger. If you don't stress the bone gets weaker. So you have to lift weights. And again, a lot of your audience is going to say, there's no way. Well, you can start. You may not lift as much weight today as I want you to lift next week or next month or next year. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great. So the lifting weights strengthens the bone. It also builds your muscle volume, which helps support your skeleton so you're not slooping over. Okay. Makes you less likely to fall and break the brittle bone. Mm-hmm. You still have to eat clean. You still have to exercise. And a big part of your exercise has to be weight training or resistance training.
We are at McAdams Park with my friend Denise Colburn, and we are going to visit about fitness. So Dr. Watt is talking about strength training, and so I thought you'd be a tremendous expert on helping us in that regard. And also just the idea of you've got to keep moving to keep moving.
Right. Well, strength training is just working your muscles, pretty much keeping them active and mobile, because we say this technique, or we say this form called active daily living, ADL. Using those muscles will help you over a longer period of times to be able to be mobile and to keep moving. And so we recommend 2 to 3 days a week. Like you can pick a couple days alternating upper, lower body, but you do want a day in between to give that muscle group a break. Just the basic things, working those large muscle groups so you can work your legs, getting those quads and hamstrings, and that way they can keep you going, your chest and your back, as well as those arms. And for our older population, our seasoned population, I like to say 50 plus, we need to think about that active daily living when we're working the muscles. So it's simply doing things that using the muscle groups for things that we take for granted, like reaching up, picking something up off a top shelf, bending over, picking something up off the floor. So we want to target those muscle groups that will allow us to continue to do those things that we do every day.
And I would imagine too, maybe prevent injuries.
Yes. Because it's little things. I wish we could say, oh, I was lifting 200 pounds and I hurt my back or did something, but usually when people get injured, it's some of the simplest things. It can be just getting out of bed wrong or picking up something wrong off the floor, and you can feel a muscle or a tear or something. So 9 times out of 10 when I hear injury, yes, it's doing the basic little things that you don't think of. But if we keep those muscles moving and keep them constantly working by doing some strength training, then we're more likely to decrease the risk of injury.
So some people love group exercise.
Yes.
That would be me. I love group exercise. What is the difference between working out on your own and group exercise?
I'm okay either way with it. Group fitness classes are more than just the exercise aspect. It's the social interaction that you get along with that, making new friends, building relationships. Some of them even have outings together, get together and do potlucks and special events, and it's just kind of important to get out. However, if you're one who don't like to get out, you want to stay home, that is okay too, to get your exercise at home. So it really just kind of depends on preference. Mm-hmm. You can use things in the comfort of your own home. You can use canned goods. You can use milk, a 2-liter soda bottle. There's different ways that you can utilize those things and get the full effect. Or you can also use what we call just body weight, using your own body weight to strengthen those muscles and to keep them going.
So what is the truth about what we should be eating?
Vegetables, and more vegetables. That's what we're primarily designed to eat. Mm-hmm. Meat is good. You need an adequate amount of protein to support your bodily functions and to support your muscle mass that I want you to increase because you're lifting weights. Mm-hmm. But you don't need a super high protein diet. But again, corn and taters are not vegetables, they're starches, that's sugar. I don't want you eating grains. I don't want you eating starches. What I'll do is I take a plate and I draw a line down the middle of it. And this half of the plate is vegetables. And I draw a line over here, and this about a quarter of a plate is your meat, preferably grass-fed, because what your food eats counts. If they're eating corn and omega-6s and GMOs, you are too.
Okay.
And what's left, we split down the middle, and part of that is fat, and the other part is fruit.
Okay.
But fruit's your occasional treat. You should never say fruits and vegetables in the same sentence. They're different critters.
Okay.
The fruit's full of sugar, fructose. That's hard on your body also. And fruit juice is an absolute no-no.
Okay.
Ask any nurse in town, if your patient overdoses on insulin and becomes hypoglycemic, what's the medical treatment? They rush over and give them orange juice. Jacks their blood sugar right up.
Okay.
Well, it does it to you just like it does it to the patient that got too much insulin.
Mm-hmm.
So get off the sugars, plenty of lean meat, grass-fed, some occasional fruit as your treat, no trans fats, no vegetable oils. Go back to butter.
Okay.
Butter's fine. Olive oil's great, not at high temperatures. Use something like grapeseed oil for cooking at a higher temperature. Okay. But I'll tell you, there's not much better than the combination of bacon, fat, and butter mixed together.
Mm-hmm. So this isn't exactly maybe keto.
I'll prefer the term low glycemic, low sugar.
Okay.
And the first thing I'm going to respond to keto is most people that think they're eating ketogenic aren't.
Okay.
A high protein diet, any diet, initially works to lose weight. It works because you've changed what you're eating, okay? If you change the crap you were eating that got you where you didn't want to be, it doesn't matter if it's all grapefruit or all hamburger or whatever. It's a change, so you see some improvement. So an Atkins type diet does work, and it works because you get rid of the sugar. The problem is your body can only burn two things for fuel, sugar and fat.
Okay.
So when you consume high amounts of protein, what your body does is it takes the protein and it turns it into sugar. So an Atkins diet works very well initially because you got rid of the Cocoa Puffs and the raisin toast. But eventually people tend to stall out, and they stall out because your body's figured out how to get the sugar elsewhere. A true ketogenic diet, like we use to treat cancer and treat epilepsy, you're getting the majority of your calories from fat. It's actually kind of hard to do unless you have a taste for coconut oil, which you're going to be eating with a spoon, because it's virtually no carbohydrates, very low protein, and extremely high fat. And it is very healthy for you, but it's a little hard to do.
Okay, well that's interesting. So what are some of the misconceptions that people have that you think our senior audience would most like to know about or might be most surprised by?
Well, I think one of them is, again, hearkening back to the fear over Alzheimer's disease that weighs on everybody's mind, figuratively and literally. And people hear statistics of how many people are going to get dementia after 80, and it is an atrociously high number. Alzheimer's is a neuroinflammatory disease. This is predicated by inflammatory changes. Some of this inflammation produces direct damage to the brain by the inflammatory molecules themselves. Part of it reflects the fact that your inflammatory response is mediated by cortisol. That's the hormone that you release for fight or flight. And again, the acute cortisol response saves your life when the saber-toothed tiger jumps out at you. When your granddaughter starts dating a boy named Spike who drives a panel van and your stress is there all the time, it's a different problem. As the cortisol goes up, the elevated cortisol level actually damages a part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is directly involved with memory. Another thing that the mesial middle part of the temporal lobe, where the hippocampus lives, does is it sends a signal to the hypothalamus at the base of the brain, and it says, slow down making all this cortisol. We don't need it. When you damage that part of the brain, the signal saying slow down disappears, and now it's a runaway train. The cortisol level keeps going up, and as it keeps going up, you get more and more hippocampal damage, and as you get more hippocampal damage, you get more cortisol. It's a reverberating circuit.
So stress plays a big role. So trying
Absolutely.
to keep your stress down.
Well, I'm going to say mediating your stress.
Okay.
When you ask people, do they have a stressful life, a lot of times they'll say no, and then you say, okay, tell me about your mortgage, tell me about your alcoholic son-in-law. There's no such thing as somebody that doesn't have stress. What counts is what you do about your stress. I'm a big fan of meditation. No, I don't sit under a crystal. I'm not that alternative. But meditation is proven scientifically to mediate these biochemical effects. But you don't have to learn to do TM meditation. Go to church. Sit and pray quietly. Go to the beach and watch the waves. It doesn't matter what you do to lower your stress, but you have to do something to let the steam off and decrease that stressful effect.
I think that we hear a lot from seniors being overwhelmed about their clutter, being overwhelmed about a future move, being overwhelmed about all the issues that their kids and grandkids might have. But trying to mediate that worry and work through the overwhelm can have a big impact on their health.
Well, and again, tonight we're not talking about psychotherapy, but one of the nicer things about getting older is it becomes a lot easier to care a lot less about a lot more. And sometimes you just have to pick your battles. You know, again, if you've got a child that's sick, I can't imagine anything that's worse than that. But again, you have to say, I'm going to deal with what I can deal with, and whether it's through meditation, prayer, a support group, whatever, you need to come to terms with those things that I can't deal with, and whether you say I'm going to put it in God's hands or not, that's how you do it. But you got to figure out some way to let go, because it's a no-win situation.
Wow. Well, this is very interesting. And I know you have a YouTube channel, Tim Watt, MD. And so there's more information that we can all get by going to your YouTube channel. So we appreciate you making those videos and for your time today. So for more information on that and what we've talked about today, if you have any questions, you can direct them, I'm sure, through your YouTube channel or us at empoweringseniors@kpts.org. And thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
This program is made possible by 46% of non-retirees believe they can't afford to retire. American Senior Benefits agents help retirees find solutions aiding your journey to retirement and financial security. More at wichita.americanseniorbenefits.com. Moving can be stressful. Whether your move is local or long distance, 2 Men in a Truck can help. More at 2men.com.
Are you a wartime veteran ages 73 to 85? Did you know there are new rules that may affect your pension? Don't lose out on benefits you deserve. Our team serves you because you served us. Contact Long-Term Care for Veterans today.
King Senior Solutions, educating clients and offering solutions for Medicare beneficiaries. Personally selecting the plan that fits your needs. More at kingseniorsolutions.com. King Senior Solutions supports KPTS.